What is up, guys? It's Jared, and today I'm going to give you all a masterclass in Chien-Pao. I got top 32 at NAIC with it recently, playing a little bit of an unconventional build. So I'm going to go right in and explain how to play the deck, my specific card inclusions, and what exactly you do against every single matchup. This video is meant to be of a more conceptual intro. So if you want a more in-depth look at my matchups and every single card, be sure to check out the links in the description, which will lead to my blog. And of course, please like and subscribe. It helps out a lot. So for the engine itself, Chien-Pao EX. It has that Shivery Chill ability, which lets you fetch 2 water energies from your deck into your hand every single turn. And it has the attack Hail Blade, and it does 60 times the number of water energies you discard. Combined with Excalibur, which has the super cold ability where you can attach as many water energies as you'd like, you now get this giant glass cannon that can pretty much blow up anything in its sight, because every turn you can get your 2 water energies and then just slam them on the board with Excalibur. You also have Radiant Greninja to draw you cards every single turn, because after all, you are fetching water energies from the deck every single turn. So it's obviously a very good deck going into just, I want to do as much damage as possible, and I really want to punish these Arceus Duraludon decks, or these decks that really can't keep up with the speed that I am going. So the question you might ask yourself is, okay, it can do a lot of damage very fast. How about its Gardevoir and Lost Box matchups, right? Gardevoir can win the prize trade with single prizers, and so can Lost Box. So how can Chien-Pao keep up? The answer is it can't really keep up by itself. One of the options, which was the most popular at NAIC, taking the top 16 slot, was Canceling Cologne, which allows you to boss Canceling Cologne to Manaphy and then Radiant Greninja to stay ahead in the prize trade. I don't like that, because that strategy revolves around Arceus V-Star. You need to have that in order to get the boss Canceling Cologne off. And I didn't think going into NAIC with 9+ rounds that was that consistent of a way to win. So my method to winning is Lost City. So Lost City says any Pokemon that gets knocked out, instead of being discarded, goes to the Lost Zone. And so this means that suddenly Gardevoir and Lost Box, 2 decks very reliant on the card Super Odd to get its Pokemon back to consistently be playing the game. In Gardevoir's case, to consistently be drawing cards, and in Lost Box's case, to consistently be using Sableye attack. They need Super Odd really bad, and when you deny them Super Odd, suddenly Gardevoir can't draw cards, and Lost Box can't attack because you're taking away its best attackers. So notably, I do want to mention with this strategy that you don't boss Lost City Manaphy. So that's a common misconception. I've had friends pick up the deck and be like, oh, well, you lost zone the Manaphy and they can't get it back and then you Greninja. That is a line, and I did use it once at NAIC when I was at 3 prizes. I boss lost zone the Manaphy, put me at 2. You need to kill Greninja or I win the game. And which do you think the Gardevoir player would like more? Their Manaphy in the Lost Zone their turn 2, or one of their Ralts in the Lost Zone turn 2? Well, I can tell you from experience, they definitely don't like that Ralts or Kirlia in the Lost Zone, because that means that they're not really playing the game, because they're not really drawing cards. And like I mentioned, Arceus is just a massive, massive, massive inclusion. You want to get it out as quickly as possible in these 2 matchups. Against Lost Box, it's very good just as an attacker, and you're just able to boss Lost Zone essentially whatever you want. You can even go for the Manaphy turn 1 or turn 2 if you have it. So Arceus is just really good because it allows you to grab that boss Lost City, and it's just really good against any other matchup which you want the edge. You want to take the initiative, and you want to say, hey, I'm going to capitalize on your bad start, or I'm going to capitalize on your deck losing to Lost City. So for the rest of the decks, Lugia, Mew, Urshifu, and Teleon, Arceus variants. You don't really need the aggression of Arceus because Lost City doesn't do anything in these matchups, which is why Bibarel is preferred in these cases. Bibarel lets you draw until you have 5 in your hand. And so this allows you to really play a long game against these decks with Iono, these decks with Judge, and especially these decks with Path to the Peak, because those are 3 cards, especially Path to the Peak, that this deck doesn't really do well against. I was streamed day 2 at NAIC, and I really had a tough time drawing what I needed against Path to the Peak because it shuts off that Shiver Chill, it shuts off that Greninja. Now I am 100% reliant on that Bibarel, and if I had a bad start, which I did, 2 of the 3 games, you just can't really get going. And especially Urshifu and Talion, that is a deck that is a turn behind by nature. It doesn't really do anything for at least a couple of turns, and it relies on Iono to regain that tempo at the end of the game. And if you don't have Bibarel, you're done. Like, this deck loses to an Iono with no Bibarel. I don't know what to tell you. So moving on to tips for how to play the deck. Number 1, and this seems a little weird, but always play greedy. Like, play as greedy as humanly possible, right? You see a Guardian on the bench, you say, well, I have 6 energies in the boss, but then I have no hand. Kill the Gardevoir. Most of the time, they're not going to be able to respond turn 3 with a boss kill on the Gardevoir EX because they need that to do pretty much anything. Especially with Velocity in play, this means that they need to find their second Gardevoir, and if they discarded it early game, then they need to Super Rod and then get it back. It's just really, really hard for them. So play greedy and make sure to always have a backup when you do so. For example, if you attack with Chien-Pao, you take this giant knockout, and you expect an incoming return KO, let's say by a Mew VMAX. What you should always do is just have a Chien-Pao on the bench ready to go, such that when they kill your Chien-Pao, you just send up the other one, and not only do you have an attacker, but you also have the Shivery Chill Concealed Cards engine ready to go and locked in. The second tip that I have is never just have one Baxcalibur out. Like, this is the most common mistake I see from Chien-Pao players is they will have like their Arceus, their Bibarel, their Chien-Pao, their like Lumineon, they're ready to go, except for the fact that they only have one Baxcalibur. And all it takes is a boss and you just lose so much momentum. So it's always important that you have a Frigibax. This also means that they're not going to really go for the Baxcalibur. And if they do, you're just going to respond. All it takes is one Irida just to respond from that, which if they're playing boss, they're not playing a hand disruption, so you're most likely going to be able to replace it right away. But yeah, only having one backsline is like the ticket to like, I want to lose a game. How do I do that? Don't bench a second Frigibax is how you do that. The third tip that I have is a little bit weird. Always make sure at the end of the game, you have 2 water energies left. Like, it is such a lose con to not have any energies in hand, have them boss a Baxcalibur, and then Sableye. Like, what are you going to do then if you don't have any energies in your hand? I oftentimes don't play all the energy in my hand because of this. Even though I can attach as many as I want via Super Cold, I oftentimes leave 2 in my hand if I don't have any in my deck. This allows me to easily be able to double attach retreat if I need, or if they play Iono, I can just get them back with Chien-Pao's ability. So there's no harm in holding the energies. There are moments where you want to over-attach. Late game, if you are in danger of your only Baxcalibur dying, maybe because you play too greedy, or maybe because they're going after Frigibax, attaching extra energies isn't the worst thing in the world. You need to be able to win the game with your Baxcalibur dead sometimes. And so this is why sometimes it's nice to overextend. The fourth tip that I have is always be conscious of your energy count. It may seem like you have a ton of energy. You do run 10 water energy, 4 superior energy retrieval, and even that 1 regular retrieval. Even with all of that, you can still run out of energy. If you're going for those greedy plays I was talking about, you can blow up all your energy. Even if you're not greedy and you're playing against a VMAX deck that requires you discard all of those energies, it's going to be really, really strenuous on your energy. So just make sure that you know what's prized. Make sure if that you have a superior energy retrieval prize, that you know that you have a superior energy retrieval prize. I actually lost a game in day 1 because of this. I literally ran out of energies. I needed like 1 more to win and didn't have it. So just always be mindful once it starts getting to mid in that late game that you always have an idea of what is actually in the deck. The 5th tip that I have for you is don't forget the fish. It is like the best game closer like ever. You can pretty much Lumineon for anything in the whole deck. You can Lumineon for Irida, you can Lumineon for boss, you can Lumineon for your Iono. You can grab your research if you want. So you can Lumineon for anything you want, and this ends up being a mid-game or late-game gem. So always leave one bench spot for Lumineon. You never know really what your opponent's going to do, so being prepared for anything is going to be your best friend. But just always be mindful of it, because the second you're not mindful of it, your opponent is going to capitalize and Iono, and then you're going to be like, well, I have a Lumineon in hand and no way to win. Anyways, that about wraps up the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know if you thought this was useful or of anything you would like to see from me in the future in the comment section below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and of course, I hope to see some Chien-Pao with some Lost City in some tournaments soon. Catch y'all later.